Em poucos dias, tantos atos de antissemitismo, suásticas pinchadas sobre o retrato de um ícone nacional e sobrevivente do Holocausto, Simone Veil. A palavra Juden, judeu em alemão, pintada na vitrine de uma padaria em Paris. Uma árvore cortada que fora plantada em memória de um jovem torturado até a morte em 2006 por ser judeu. Atos de ódio que relembram a muitos das horas escuras da França sobre a ocupação nazista e provocou fortes condenações do governo.
O antissemitismo se espalha como um veneno, como um fel. Ele ataca, apodrece o espírito e assassina. Os letreiros de um restaurante judeu esmagados. Uma cabeça de porco marcada com uma estrela de Davi jogada junto à porta. Suásticas e estrelas de Davi pichadas no muro. Isso foi o resultado de um ataque antissemita na cidade de Chemnitz, na Alemanha Oriental, em agosto de 2018. Foi apenas um dos 600 crimes antissemitas praticados na Alemanha no último ano. Isso é um aumento de 10% comparado com 2017. Particularmente preocupante, o número de incidentes violentos como este em Berlim aumentou em 2/3.
O tiroteio mortal da sinagoga de Pittsburgh, não muito tempo atrás, nos recorda que o antissemitismo, que tem sido chamado de o ódio mais longo, continua firme na América.
There has been a stereotyping of Jews.
The stereotypes are money, a fixation with money, power. They have smarts in a malicious kind of way, conniving. This goes beyond Jews. It starts with Jews, but it doesn't end with Jews. These are people who hate difference. It's bigger than one group.
Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us!
A palavra alemã para judeus, Juden, foi pichada nessa padaria perto do antigo quarteirão judaico. Foi descoberto no fim de semana. Muitos ligaram com as inscrições que atingiam os comerciantes judeus na Alemanha em 1930.
Os protestos dos coletes amarelos na França deixaram o país profundamente dividido. E agora acusações de que o movimento foi tomado por facções antissemitas está causando indignação política. Uma recente onda de pichações e vandalismos direcionados à comunidade judaica está levantando a preocupação de um problema muito maior num país lidando com a mais longa revolta já vista.
Ato 13, Juden, em Paris. Ato 12, insultos diante de uma sinagoga em Estrasburgo. Ato 9, o antissemita Hirvensen num colete amarelo. O mesmo acontece por toda parte e é uma tragédia.
Não é a primeira vez que os coletes amarelos são acusados de antissemitismo. Durante a sexta semana de protestos, conhecida como Ato 6, uma série de incidentes antissemitas foram comunicados, incluindo um grupo de protestantes cantando uma canção popular de um comediante antissemita. Outro grupo foi acusado de insultar um sobrevivente de Auschwitz no metrô. Mas o que os próprios coletes amarelos têm a dizer sobre isso?
Os coletes amarelos não são racistas, eles são pacíficos. Eles acreditam na República. Eles são pacíficos, tolerantes e querem viver melhor em seu país. É possível que entre os coletes amarelos haja malucos e racistas, o que não é diferente do restante da sociedade francesa. O objetivo do governo é manchar os coletes amarelos. Primeiro eles tentaram identificar os coletes amarelos com hooligans, mas isso não funcionou.
De marcas ofensivas arranhadas numa carteira escolar em Coney Island, a panfletos vulgares colocados em Menganes Boulevard em Greenpoint. A polícia de Nova York diz que incidentes envolvendo suásticas estão aparecendo em números recordes nesse ano na cidade de Nova York.
Os nova-iorquinos estão chocados após terem visto carros de patrulha muçulmanos passando pelos seus bairros como patrulhas policiais. Essas patrulhas muçulmanas comunitárias começaram a operar no Brooklyn este ano. Os moradores dizem estarem incomodados com as patrulhas, que eles descrevem como sendo parecidos com uma polícia Sharia. Grupos parecidos já são vistos em outras grandes cidades europeias como Dinamarca, Alemanha, França, Suécia e Inglaterra. E agora, com a chegada dessas patrulhas muçulmanas a Nova York, os americanos estão ficando preocupados se não cairão na mesma perseguição por não seguirem as práticas islâmicas.
Uma marcha com jovens vestidos de negro que carregavam tochas. Mais de 2.000 militantes de grupos nacionalistas de extrema-direita marcharam pelas ruas da capital búlgara. Quiseram prestar homenagem ao general búlgaro Lukov, um simpatizante nazi.
May I ask you something?
I'm not in a position to refuse.
Is it true you called the camps liquidation machines?
Everyone used flippant terms for dirty work.
We have our guy, Adolf Eichmann.
The architect of the final solution?
Após receber uma pista de que Adolf Eichmann estava escondido na Argentina, os israelenses montam um plano para capturar o arquiteto da solução final e trazê-lo à justiça. Na época, a Argentina abrigava um considerável número de nazistas alemães, deixando Israel sem esperanças de que um pedido de extradição seria atendido.
Blood in between his eyes, but that's not what we're doing here. This is strictly catch and extract.
Eichmann will stand trial here in Israel.
Conduzidos pelo agente da Mossad Pire Malkin, um grupo de elite captura Eichmann e o leva para o esconderijo. Ali, Malkin tenta compreender o homem que ele via como um monstro.
Kingsley is known for his unforgettable roles in movies like Gandhi, Schindler's List, and House of Sand and Fog. I remember that. Now he's starring in the historical thriller Operation Finale. It's based on the real-life Israeli mission to capture Adolf Eichmann, one of Nazis' chief architects of the Holocaust. Kingsley portrays Eichmann, who has been hiding in Argentina with his family under an alias after World War II.
We have our guy, Adolf Eichmann.
The architect of the final solution?
We should be putting him down like a mad dog.
I would happily put a bullet in between his eyes, but that's not what we're doing here. Strictly catch and extract.
Eichmann will stand trial here in Israel.
My job was simple. Save the country I love from being destroyed.
Whom did we take from you, Peter?
Sir Ben Kingsley joins us now at the table. Good morning to you. That
Morning.
was such a very crucial scene in the movie. And the thing that got to me about this movie, Ben, is that he's such a despicable character in history. Yet we saw the humanity of this man with his family, with his dog, with his wife, and it was hard for me to reconcile the two.
Well, I think that you've hit on one of the many tensions that run through the film. And I'm delighted that that's your dilemma, because that's the dilemma that we want to awaken in the audience. I think if we fictionalize the man as a monster baddie, yes, quote unquote, then we relegate that horrendous portion of history to fiction, and it's either easier to forget, digest, or dismiss. Mm-hmm. But when we insist on the audience to accept these men and women as men and women, yeah, then it makes that period of history much harder to deal with, but we must confront it and deal with it. Yeah. Eichmann was one of us. And interlaced with this, I also had the privilege of meeting Elie Wiesel, the great prophet and poet and witness of the Holocaust and survivor. And when I was last with Elie, I did have the opportunity to tell him to his face that the next time I walk onto a film set that's relevant to your story, I will dedicate my performance to you. Mm. So really, I did not immerse myself in Nazism or German nationalism. I immersed myself in the memory of Elie Wiesel. Wow. And every day I said to myself, and to a photograph of him I had in my pocket, Elie, I'm doing this for you. And that was my engine, that was my fuel.
Elie Wiesel was a Holocaust survivor, humanitarian, storyteller, and activist. But to millions of admirers now mourning his loss, he was known simply as a one-man testament to bravery and survival.
I would like to show the tragedy of a person who is not only a victim of his own sickness, but of injustice.
His book, Night, thrust him onto the world stage. It told the story of his experience in a German concentration camp to which he and his family were sent when Wiesel was just 15 years old. In it, he writes, "Never shall I forget those things, even were I condemned to live as long as God himself. Never." His commitment to making sure the world never forgets the systematic murder of 6 million Jews earned him a sprawling list of accolades, including the Nobel Peace Prize in 1986.
We refuse to be silent. Remember, silence helps the killer, never his victims.
Those two things with what you said earlier, which is that Eichmann is one of us. Why is that so important to keeping the memory of the Holocaust survivors alive? And
because I think if we dismiss them in a sort of capsule, an aberration of history, saying, well, they weren't really human, so they don't count, then we're really letting history off the hook, and we're in grave danger of allowing it to happen again.
Let me ask you about an interview you did recently where you talked about not viewing Holocaust survivors in a capsule because you didn't want people to think that it couldn't happen again, the Holocaust. Why are you worried that it might happen again? Are you concerned specifically about that?
I'll tell you who told me it might happen, it probably could happen again. That's Simon Wiesenthal and Elie Wiesel have both said that openly and publicly. So it is not for me to voice that concern. What do I know? I'm just an actor. But they are the voice of the Holocaust. And if those men are saying that, then we better sit up and listen. And I'm not saying it's going to come from Europe. I'm not saying it's going to come from any part of the world that we think it's going to come from. It's not. It's going to come from a very surprising place.
Sir Ben Kingsley tells VOA that his depiction of a vulnerable and human Adolf Eichmann is a warning that the most heinous crimes in history are committed not by mythical monsters, but by everyday people. He relates a personal story that has haunted him over the years and informed his decision to take the role.
I was outside an old synagogue with a Jewish journalist, a young woman, and a Hungarian approached us and asked us what we were doing. And we said, we're filming the life of Simon Wiesenthal, to which he replied, "Ah, you Jews. You should just keep quiet. Because it never happened. And if you don't keep quiet, it'll happen again. Now work that one out. Work that one out." Absolutely shocking.
Oscar Isaac plays Peter Molking, a man grieving the murder of his sister and her children by the Nazis, but who treats Eichmann kindly and convinces him to cooperate.
It's almost like Malcolm convinced Eichmann of his humanity. You know, the whole thing was about, you know, if we were like you, you'd be dead right now.
Then in the 1980s, during the Cold War, I was invited to speak in Poland. And my Polish host asked me if I would like to see Auschwitz. I told him, I'd been to concentration camps. He said, "No, Ravi, this is not a concentration camp. This used to be a death camp." I'd been to Buchenwald and Dachau and so on. He said, "This is a death camp." I wasn't prepared for what I was going to see then again. So my life again, now being reshaped in my middle years. 12,000 obliterated every day in Auschwitz alone. Think about it. Think about it. And you walk away from there and say, how? How did the most sophisticated nation in its time get herded into this mentality by a handful of men and demagogues to get them to do what they did? If you saw the pictures of the children on the wall, castrated boys, twins, standing, if you'd strummed your finger on their ribs, you would have heard the sound of it. They were so emaciated. And I think the story that captured it all for me was when I read the article by Peter Malkin, who was the Mossad chief intelligence person who was given the charge to track down Adolf Eichmann in the swamps of Argentina. And Peter Malkin somehow tracked him down, and from a distance with their high-tech equipment every day would watch what was happening here. Eichmann was working at a Mercedes-Benz factory. It's told in the book, The House on Garibaldi Street. And he would be watched unknown to him. He would carry his briefcase, bony, straight-shouldered, come up to the door, unlock it, and before he did, he would always look over his shoulder to see if anybody was watching. Hadn't the faintest clue he was being watched the whole time. Gets off the bus one day, and as he's getting down, 3 of these guys come up close to him. One of them jabs an injection and knocks him out. Puts him in a car. He is dressed up as an El Al pilot and taken back onto a flight and brought back to Jerusalem. I went to the Yad Vashem Museum to look at the documents when I was writing my book, my little booklet, Jesus Talks to Hitler. And you see page after page after page of interrogation of Eichmann. Thousands of pages. Here's what happened. Peter Malkin was given the responsibility to bring him back, not to interrogate him. As he's about to disembark from the train and turn Eichmann over to the authorities, he couldn't resist one question. He went into the compartment where Eichmann had been, his mark on his arm and all of that, SS. And he said, Mr. Eichmann, I just have one question for you. Please help me with this. Every night I watched you come home. You opened your door and a little boy would jump into your arms and you would embrace him. Who's that? He said, it's my son. He said, how old is he? Eichmann gave the age. He said, you know, Mr. Eichmann, I had a cousin, I had a nephew exactly the same age as your boy. You killed him. Why? And Eichmann is reclining, Malkin is sitting on a chair asking the question. No expression on his face. He turns to Peter Malkin and says, my son wasn't Jewish. And with that statement, Malkin left those confines and went away and sobbed uncontrollably, unable to explain why his race was so hated by somebody.
But having failed to exalt himself, his work now is one driven by envy and vengeance against God and against anybody that God cares about. That when God says he loves his people, and when God says he loves the Jews, he loves Israel, the hatred of the devil is directed towards those people in particular.
Ich schwöre nicht auf die Bibel, ich schwöre bei Gott.
I do not swear by the Bible, I swear by the Almighty God.
During the 5-month trial, Adolf Eichmann would never admit his guilt.
Ich kam in Kontakt.
But I had to obey orders, I had to do it.
But for the first time, survivors of the death camps had the chance to testify about the horrors they had endured.
We walked from early morning till late in the night. There were many who on the very first day fell and never got up.
What happened to those?
They remained on the roadside. They were either shot or beaten until they died.
If Eichmann thought he would just serve a few years in an Israeli prison before heading back to Argentina, then he gravely miscalculated.
Eichmann is found guilty of crimes against the Jewish people, crimes against humanity, and war crimes.
Adolf Eichmann would be convicted and hanged. Right after the war, the Allies prosecuted 22 Nazis in Nuremberg, Germany. But that was the winners trying the losers. Adolf Eichmann's trial in Israel was something else entirely. The victims themselves seeking justice, even when the world would have understood vengeance.